Welcome back. It's me, Lou. All right, so for today's video, it's gonna be something a little bit different. In a lot of videos, I always talk about like troop building and army building, especially like with stuff like with Star Wars, like GI Joe Classified series. Like just troop building your Cobra troopers. One thing I've been wanting to do for a long time is kind of like tinker around with the Masters of the Universe and kind of like army build the Eternian Palace Guard. Some of you might remember this deluxe set that came out back in 2021. It was super hot at the time. I remember the pre-orders sold out. But then, much like Mattel's other Masters of the Universe figures, eventually they became very common. And I think this is like one of my favorite sets in the series, since its debut some years ago. I love the idea that they gave us options. In the Masters of the Universe Origins line, it's encouraged that you like swap pieces, create unique characters, and just make up designs of your own. I love that with the Palace Guard, they kind of encouraged you to buy multiple sets just so you could create different variations of the Palace Guard. So it didn't always look like man-at-arms. You could create unique characters. You could create infantry, troopers, whatnot. And I was all on board. I thought this was such a fantastic idea. Now, fast forward to 2024, and we got these. We got the TMNT Masters of the Universe crossover, the Turtles of Grayskull. And this Man-at-Arms figure, I think, is fantastic. I reviewed this previously in another video, and I mentioned how I think this is such a great figure to amass a handful of, and possibly army build and troop build with this figure, just because there's so many different options because of the armor pieces, and it becomes very versatile. So in my head, I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Let's try creating different designs and see what we could tinker around with. We'll take the older Eternian Palace Guard deluxe set with the multiple pieces, and we'll try to come up with something with this. But before we do, here I brought another copy of this figure along just because I want to show you some of the ideas I had in my head. I love this action figure. I think it's one of my favorite Masters of the Universe figures in the last maybe like 2 years. I think it's really cool. I'm a big fan of Man-at-Arms to begin with, so I do have a bias toward the character. But this design I think is just fantastic. I love the armor pieces. Alright, so we'll set aside his weapons, which are these two maces. And let's take the figures out. So the figure itself comes with this forearm piece. There's the shoulder pauldron on the back. There's this turtle shell, which kind of doubles as a shield, which attaches to his back. And then he has the boot cover over here with the knee pad. So in my initial video, I was kind of talking about, if you bought multiples of these, you could like change up the armor a little. Like if you wanted a much more symmetrical design, you could get the other boot guard and place it over the other leg. Granted, it's still going to be somewhat asymmetrical just because the belt strap is on the same side as opposed to being on the other side. But I think you can easily overlook that. So that's one thing you can easily do. And the character does look a lot different having symmetrical boots. Likewise, you could do the same with the shoulder pauldron. You could attach it on one arm and then attach it on the other. And again, it creates a somewhat unique looking character. He looks a little bit more bulky, a little bit more armored out. And then you can do the same with the the forearm pieces. So this is kind of like Man-at-Arms going into like heavy combat. He wants to make sure he doesn't get, struck down from any side. He's well guarded, well protected all around. It's a little bit overkill, but you kind of see what I'm saying. There's design options. So then once you introduce this set here, you're opening yourself up to different armor options. And I do think it's not an exact color match, but I do think the orange armor pieces kind of fall within the same ballpark. So it's not going to look drastically too different, I think. And let's get this out. So the Palace Guard came with the standard Man-at-Arms armor. This is kind of like the OG armor design. Came with the original OG style head without the mustache. And then the figure itself, it featured a much more symmetrical body armor design than the standard Man-at-Arms. The Palace Guard had shoulder pauldrons on both sides and forearm guards on both sides, as well as the two boot covers. So, the fun thing with these is that you can swap pieces. You can see the shade of orange is different on the TMNT figure. There's this large plastic fuzz on here. Let's remove that. The TMNT figure is kind of like a shinier orange, whereas the older one's a little bit more matte and darker. You can kind of see the design elements are a little bit different as well. They do have the mouth guard on the front, but then below the chest they kind of have like this tubes and piping and additional greebling. And then let's try doing a head swap. I'm curious to see how the head would look on this one. It's not bad. It looks pretty cool, as you can see right there. Let's get this guy into focus. Focus out. He does not want to focus. Maybe he's camera shy. Just wait. Yeah, there you go. So already you can kind of see the design possibilities. You can swap out these armor pieces onto here, which looks pretty cool. So I think that's one of the fun things with Masters of the Universe. They really encourage you to part swap and just create unique designs of your own, which I think if you're a child, it's a fun play feature. And as an adult, you can just have a field day. You can create unique characters, let your imagination run wild. So yeah, I think it's just really cool. There's a lot of fun options of what you could do. Likewise, you can swap the armor pieces around. If you want to give this dude the crazy helmet. And it kind of works. I kind of dig that look. It looks kind of neat. And let's try some of these armor pieces over here. I really like the eagle Aquila on his chest. It's very reminiscent of like Warhammer 40K. It's almost kind of like what we see on like the Marines. Yeah, so it's kind of awesome that you kind of have this playability. Granted, you could do this with other figure lines as well, whether it's Marvel Legends or G.I. Joe Classified series. But I think it's really cool when you could kind of create characters that kind of make sense, especially like when you're army building. Yeah, so this is something I wanted to share with you. I thought it'd be a fun video to do, get the gears running. Especially if you haven't really dabbled in the world of creating customs. part swapping is something that's very easy. You can easily create new characters. Just be careful, because it's almost like a gateway drug once you start. Because once you start realizing the different possibilities of the characters you can create and the new design options you have, you might be enticed to like buy multiple copies of certain figures just to create certain new looks. So it could become an expensive endeavor down the road, but it's just fun. I think it's always cool when you have multiple options and you create unique designs and whatnot. All right, so with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.